Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to our live web event. It's 11 a.m. in California, and we're going to get started now. Thank you for attending this event. There's a large number of people on. Luckily, we've had some good luck lately with the webinar technology. I will caution you, like you, we're all working at home. And so we don't have necessarily the best business networks, but things have been looking pretty good. So if you see any glitches, give us just a few seconds to correct things. We've got a couple of backup organizers here to make sure everything goes smoothly. And we're going to get started. This event's being recorded. One of the most common requests we get is, can I see the recordings? And the answer is yes. It'll get posted to YouTube within a day or so, and we can go ahead and show it to you there. The other thing is there is a question panel. If you go look at the GoToWebinar control panel, there's a question panel over to the side. You can ask questions. We usually queue up the questions. We try to answer most of them near the end. But if one seems to be particularly relevant right in the middle, sometimes I'll interrupt and we'll ask the question in the middle. So at this point, we're going to get started. And I'll turn this over to our primary speaker in just a minute. Today's event is G Suite, Ransomware and Cybersecurity, How Things Have Changed. The first thing to understand is the cost of ransomware is going up. It's basically doubling every couple of years. It has reached a significant cost to the economy, currently projected to be about $20 billion in cost next year. And there are other estimates that that's probably underestimating the total cost. But the cost of cybercrime is going up, and ransomware is particularly expensive. So the timeline is that this really wasn't a major problem for big businesses until about 3 or 4 years ago. Then we started to have some extremely dramatic ransomware events and ransomware shutdowns. Most of this was because of the increased skill and technology on the part of the hackers. Ransomware has grown from being a single person event where one person gets infected and therefore the total amount of ransom you could demand is basically commensurate with one person to the size of a company. And so we've got the smaller events like FedEx in the Q3 of 2017 for $300 million loss, up to modern events where we've got hospitals that are being shut down for several days, millions of dollars in cost. So where are the costs? We say people lose money on ransomware, and this pie chart seems to be pretty accurate as far as we can tell. This is coming from RSA. It moved a little bit in a few percentage points in the last year, but for the most part, this is pretty consistent as we've seen over time. The biggest single cost is downtime costs, and it's not the direct IT costs, although those are 12% of the cost of ransomware, 9%. It's not necessarily the lost revenue, but it's downtime, and downtime means you're offline, and so you can't process your normal business. And one of the reasons is that recovery can take many, many days. It's one of the topics we get asked all the time. We have people ask us, and we'll drill into this. They say, well, we actually have some backup solutions, and so we, in theory, can recover from ransomware. And then what they find out is in reality, they're down for days. The actual total failures, that is a failure to back up and restore attack files, is very common. A lot of times people find out during ransomware times that their system wasn't really designed to back up and restore the whole organization. And so the impact can be millions of dollars, lost lost data, and of course, negative PR and lost reputation. In addition, we got some changes here. One of the big changes we've got is that COVID-19 has done some changing. I've used the word home alone. People are home alone. There's a lower level of IT support. There's a lower level of monitoring. They're using their own private home networks. Sometimes people can't make VPNs work very well at home. And so a lot of IT departments have actually significantly relaxed the VPN requirements. First of all, because their VPN was never designed for that many people to be working simultaneously. And secondly, because the large number of high profile people in their company that don't make it work. And so we've got a home alone issue. We got a lower level of IT support, and the cyber criminals have aggressively increased attacks. This isn't our imagination. First of all, inside Spin, we've seen this. So we've actually seen an increase in attacks. Barracuda Research has measured it and reported a 667% increase in attacks just between February and March of 2020. So these special attacks, these spear phishing attacks, they work pretty well when people are at home, and we've had a big increase in that kind of behavior. So we're going to dig into what this looks like at a technical level in just a minute. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to David Asatrian. He's our product manager. Everything it says about them here, there is true. He does drink a lot of coffee. He does eat a lot of French fries, and he does not eat salads. But what it doesn't say about him, which is true, is he's a certified cybersecurity expert, and he's going to walk us through some deep dives into cybersecurity, particularly dealing with ransomware, but also a couple other topics. At this point, I'm going to turn this over to David. David, over to you.
Thank you, and thank you for the unique introduction. Yeah, I have the opportunity to work with our ransomware research lab here at Spin Technology, where we analyze the present and future of these attacks. And we've noticed some changes in these trends. They're constantly evolving, they're adapting to new situations, especially now that everyone is work from home. So I wanted to share our findings and also show a solution that can provide the ultimate protection against it. And one of the things we get asked a lot is, who is ransomware targeted towards? Is my company safe because I don't fall in this sector? And the answer to that is no. No one is safe from these cyber criminals. People are storing a lot of data online, and anything is fair game to these criminals, especially nowadays where cloud adoption is at an all-time high, which is due to its ease of use, flexibility of access to data anywhere, and even work from home, which we're all experiencing now. And the cloud, while it does make everything easier, also opens up a new dimension of data being at risk. So this is the Vector 2019 Spotlight report on ransomware, and the distribution just goes to show how it's not focused in one specific sector, highlighting the importance of any and every organization to be aware of the situation and have the proper protection tools. So how has ransomware evolved over time? Let's talk about the first generation of ransomware attacks. This is where ransomware encrypts only the file bodies and nothing else. And usually this occurs when an encryption Trojan is installed or an executable. And it begins encrypting files matching particular extensions which are included in the Trojan itself. And no one was ready for these types of attacks since this was the first of its kind. But over time, security experts were able to generate decryption methods which would recover all their data. And as you can guess, this didn't please the hackers, these criminals, as they had no way of generating any revenue, which led to the second generation of ransomware attacks. And with the second generation of these ransomware attacks, besides just the file body being encrypted, the name of the file and the metadata also began to be encrypted. And with the metadata and the file name also affected, it's more difficult for security experts to get decryption methods without receiving the keys from the hackers. And also from our research, I'd say this is the most common form of attacks now, especially in the cloud. And organizations try to get in front of this to combat against the second wave by adding new security software, by adding tools that utilize data traffic monitoring tools. And most importantly, they began backing up their data, the local data to the on-prem storages and the cloud data to AWS or GCP, for example. In the case where the security did not protect them from an attack, the data was backed up, right? The companies would ideally recover their data from the backups and not have to negotiate with these cyber criminals. But even with all this, we've detected there are still some major issues. First of all, having a backup is simply not enough. Recovering cloud data isn't instant. We know this. And if you are an organization that uses a lot of data, it can cause you days and weeks of downtime due to the API limitations, which can in turn become very costly. And second, the cyber criminals were still successful in their attempts, right? They were able to penetrate the environment and they were able to launch their encryptions. So there's still a huge gap. In addition to that, these cyber criminals are getting extremely smart each year, and they release more sophisticated algorithms which are completely different from what was seen before, and target protection services, the ones that people started adopting in the second wave. The new generation of ransomware is now able to block on-prem antiviruses and backup agents. You can see the strings on screen here, for example, Veeam, backup, LogMe, and so on. Now these ransomware attacks target these services and stop them. Their goal is to leave the data exposed, and besides encrypting the data as they did before, this allows them to now delete the backed up data and download all available critical company information. And how do they do this? They do this by targeting remote monitoring and management tools. And these tools supervise and control IT systems. So uh, when they are able to get through these tools, they have the information that they can acquire now. So a good example of this type of attack is the Ragnarlocker ransomware. And as you can notice from these changes and these new waves, ransomware is constantly evolving and adapting to the changes that occur with data usage and security advancements. So besides recovering their data, besides organizations recovering their data when an attack occurs, they now have to worry about data that can be stolen and published, which can cause new complications with compliance and even their market bracket. Now we've seen how this ransomware started and how it has evolved. And the next important question that we have to ask is, how can it be stopped? And there's currently three popular methods of detecting ransomware attacks in the cloud: through signature-based, by monitoring abnormal traffic, and through file behavior. And as we mentioned, these attacks are constantly changing. We can wake up tomorrow to many newer versions and different algorithms. So the first priority is always being ready for new attacks. And that's why signature-based protection is not recommended at all, since this is only for attacks that have been discovered. And once an attack occurs, we can analyze it, find out its footprint, and add it to our existing security softwares and stop it from happening in the future. However, if it's a new attack and the footprint isn't recorded, nothing can be done through signature-based protection. Abnormal traffic can raise a lot of false positives, and it's a bit uncontrollable, especially when you have multitudes of users in your organization. It can cause a lot of false positives, a lot of action that shouldn't occur. So we have deemed it to be an untrustworthy method of detecting ransomware as well. But from our experience and research, we have came to the conclusion that analyzing file behavior is the number one way in stopping ransomware attacks in the cloud. And this is actually how we protect organizations against ransomware here at Spin. So by comparing with normal file behavior, our solution uses AI to detect when files are being encrypted, allowing us to locate the source and to revoke access to the sync application that is causing this encryption. And we don't block a user or remove a user from the organization. We simply revoke access to the application. So we've built the ultimate cloud application monitoring and protection platform, providing organizations with full visibility and full protection for their organizations. And the key here is automation. So automated protection, automated recoveries, automated countermeasures deployed to eliminate risks with no agent required at all. And that's actually what we recommend for all organizations. The usage of AI is very critical, very, especially with this constantly changing ransomware tactics. A solution is needed that can constantly adapt and stop any type of ransomware, whether it has occurred before or is new. Let's take a look at the Spin architecture now. It's a multi-step process, as you can see, and it starts with the monitoring. Where Spin has an active state scanner that performs 24/7 monitoring of G Suite environments, analyzing each file and how it's used, detecting for any sort of abnormal behavior. And with the help of our AI algorithms and adjusting security patterns, we sift through a tremendous amount of data, allowing us to identify when files are being encrypted or when an attack has started. And once we can confirm that an attack is started or is occurring, we immediately begin locating for that source. Since if we block the source, no new files can be encrypted. And once we do locate that source, we revoke access to the link between the attack and the user, therefore stopping the spread. So after that's done, Spin then continues to perform a full scan of the G Suite environment to locate any data that has been infected while the stopping process was occurring. So we then continue to run a granular recovery by restoring a previously backed up version of these files. And as you can see, our backup services are tied in with our ransomware protection feature, and they are both essential for full coverage. And it goes without saying, we'll notify the administrators once an attack is started, once it has completed, and whether there's been any updates. So showing the architecture, I actually want to show you an example of a ransomware attack. And this is a real ransomware attack that we have protected against. And the video here is our team emulating the attack for demonstration purposes. So just some background information. We have a situation here where an employee received a phishing link and actually installed an executable to their local device. And once that's done, the cyber criminal now has access and can begin the encryption process. So let's start up the video here. And now the cyber criminal initiates the attack right here, and local files begin being encrypted. And how can this reach the cloud, right? It's starting from the local end. Well, with everyone mostly aggregating their data to the cloud, there are syncing tools available. And as you can see, this employee is actually using backup and sync to their Google Drive, which therefore leaves their Google Drive files exposed along with their local data. And you'll notice how the encrypted data is now being synced to Drive. So going a bit forward, we can notice how Spin comes in. So Spin has detected an abnormal file behavior and has taken action. Opening the sync menu lets us see what's happening. And we can notice that there are some errors and the encrypted data isn't being synced to the drive anymore. And besides that, the connection to the cloud drive from the local computer has been revoked. So let's see how this occurs. Going a bit forward, we can see that the backup and sync has actually been disconnected, which stops the malware from spreading. And heading back to the employee's drive, which we'll do in a second here, we can see that all the files are still there. And in the case that there were any files encrypted, Spin has already restored the data to the drive. And this was done automatically. The user has not removed from G Suite. They are still active and they can continue to access and manage their files with no downtime at all. So that being said, I actually want to show a demonstration of the Spin1 platform and how this can be viewed there. And yeah, we're looking at the Spin1 interface right now. This is what a customer would see. We work on top of G Suite and visualize all the summary and data here. And as the focus is ransomware protection, I'm going to quickly head over to our ransomware section. So we do have a 24/7 active state scanner in place, which is constantly monitoring for file behavior, detecting for anything abnormal. And if there is an anomaly that has been detected, that's when our solution would begin its protection. In our testing environment, we have simulated 5 ransomware attacks, and this allows you to see when an attack has started and when the whole process completed along with the files that were involved. So heading into the July 18 attack, we can see that it started at 6:03 a.m. and the whole process of detecting that an attack was occurring, of stopping the source application from encrypting any more files and recovering any file that were infected only took a matter of 18 minutes. And 108 files were encrypted in the meantime, which were all successfully recovered. And if automation wasn't turned on, you are able to manually recover these files. So going back here, what's also important besides looking at the ransomwares is monitoring the organization. So we do have this domain audit solution, which provides administrators with full visibility of what's going on. So besides monitoring for ransomware, administrators are also able to monitor for when data is being downloaded, transferred, when a brute force attack occurs, or even when credit card numbers are being shared in your organization. So keeping track of all these events, monitoring them, along with having the ransomware protection itself is the ultimate protection. What's also important is to manage the current applications that are being used in an organization. So ransomware, besides starting locally, can also be through connected applications that have access to G Suite services. And an application can be malicious with having intentions to get access to your data, or it can be breached. And with the access, again, these criminals can proceed with their processes. So it's crucial to have an application assessment tool that can detect business, security, and compliance risks. And that's what we have here. We use a NIST framework and have 20 criteria which we use to score these applications. along with also information from publicly available sources to detect any vulnerabilities or breaches. And this allows administrators to manage and automate how applications are being used, also being able to add protection from ransomware. So along with this journey to protect all organizations against ransomware or any type of breaches, we also have allied with Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services, and Microsoft Azure. And these partnerships allow us to provide the ultimate protection and monitoring platform to G Suite customers. And that being said, I am able to take any questions that you guys have.
Okay, we've got quite a few questions queued up in the question panel. The very first one is that there's like 4 variants of this one, but it's all the same. Basically, people are saying, "Hey, I've already got backup. How is this different than backup? Why doesn't my backup do this?"
Got it. And having a backup is crucial. So it's a must. And if anyone doesn't have backup services already, I recommend all organizations into looking to protect their local data and their cloud data. But when it comes to ransomware, backup simply isn't enough anymore. With API limitations, recovering data can take a tremendous amount of time, which can in turn become very costly. And besides that, the cyber criminals were still able to acquire your data. So with these new waves, we noticed where besides encryption, data is also being publicized and downloaded, which can cause further issues than the ransom itself. So this is why we recommend having a solution on top of the backup that can monitor behavior in the organization and take action automatically with no agent.
Okay, thank you. Another question, and by the way, there are people who sent me a chat saying, "Where's the question panel?" The question panel should be 4 above the chat panel. So if you can find the chat, you can find the questions. Next question. It's similar, but it's basically about anti-malware and antivirus. For it says we already have Symantec, we already have McAfee. These are supposed to give us ransomware protection. Why doesn't that cut it? Why doesn't that meet the need?
Got it. And Semantic, McAfee, and those of their kind are great security tools, but these are either on-prem solutions or only cover local data. And what we notice is there's a gap for protection in cloud data, which these solutions don't provide security for. So in the case of where ransomware begins directly in the cloud data is exposed and local solutions aren't able to take action against this. So it's always important to cover both ends.
Um, how about performance? Does this impact my performance of my G Suite platform?
Performance isn't impacted at all, and this is a priority for us as well, right? We don't want organizations to experience any downtime or any abrupt stops to their business flows. So Spin works with Google API, and this enables us to perform our services with no impact on performance whatsoever.
Okay, so the performance is in the cloud. And it's not related to my particular G Suite instance, is what you're saying.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Okay, you said in the discussion that you identified the source of the attack. How do you find an attack source?
Well, when there's files being encrypted, there's an application connected that is either causing the syncing of encrypted files or is actually doing the encryption itself. And when we're monitoring for this file traffic, it allows Spin to detect which application is causing this abnormal behavior, whether it's the sync or the encryption. And once we find that source, then we can proceed to revoke the access and stop it from continuing or spreading.
How fast can Spin identify and respond? How fast does the actual, in the real world, not in your demo, but how fast in the real world have we discovered that people can identify ransomware and then respond?
So this happens very quickly in a matter of minutes, actually. We are constantly monitoring this file behavior. And once we detect an anomaly or abnormal file behavior of data, we can immediately begin our services. So we can determine that files are being encrypted and can take action and block the source at once.
Okay. And then what's the role of AI in detection? What's the role of artificial intelligence in this detection process?
A very big role, actually. We use AI to identify the normal behavior of a file for different types of G Suite accounts and for different types of files. So using AI, it helps us to reduce the number of false positive cases when it comes to the detection of a ransomware attack, and actually helps us perform these services much faster.
Okay, thank you. I have several questions on scale, just to give you an idea of who's attending. I've got
Hmm.
someone asking, will this work for 500 employees? And I got someone else asking, will it work for more than 100,000? And a couple of in the middle. So talk about scale. Has this ever been deployed in a big place? What does it scale to?
Yes, definitely. We're actually working with a lot of organizations who actually have users much larger than that. And with our partnerships, our platform is very scalable. So it can meet any organization's need, no matter the size of how many users they have.
Okay. I've got a few questions that are very environmental specific. We'll answer those one-on-one. We know your email address. We'll go ahead and get to you one-on-one with these. David, thank you very much. That's been really helpful. And at this time, we're going to end this event. And this event has been recorded. We'll send everybody a link to the recording. We appreciate everybody attending. We know that a lot of people are working at home, and people are taking an opportunity to learn more. So I hope you learned something. David, I certainly always learn when I attend your events. Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting this event, David.
Thank you for having me, Grover. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody, and we're going to end the event. We'll send you a recording. Have a great day.